Hey guys, Melissa here with LovableLobes.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to crochet this puppy pixel graph. So I designed this pixel graph using Stitch Fiddle, and I was inspired by the puppy emoji that I have on my iPhone. I thought this was super cute. So this pixel graph will end up measuring 25 by 25. And so this obviously would not be large enough in itself to be a blanket, but there are a lot of different things that you can do with these graphs. You can make multiple graphs, like different animals, and stitch them together. You can just use one and hang it up as wall art or even frame it. So there's a lot of different options for these graphs. So what you're going to need to do is you can either just follow along exactly to what I'm doing, or you can go check the link in the description below and print your own PDF version of this graph so that you can do exactly what I'm doing. So you're going to need an I 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Now the size of your crochet hook is not extremely important. If you go larger, your stitches will be your squares will be a little looser, and at the same time, if you go smaller, then your stitches will be a little tighter. So depending on what your plan is for your project, you can play around with the size of your crochet hook. But again, I'm using an I 5.5 millimeter hook. You're also going to want a ruler, a pen, some sort of like a marker or highlighter to mark the dots as you go, the squares, and a pair of scissors. For your yarn, as you can see here, we're going to need white, brown, black, and pink. To get started, I'm going to first move the supplies out of my way that I don't currently need. Also, for this tutorial, you're going to need to know how to chain and how to double crochet. So if you don't know how to do that, I will, in the description box below, I will have links to my tutorials on how to make a chain and how to double crochet. Otherwise, I'll be working fairly slowly to show you exactly what to do, but I won't be showing you how to actually double crochet. Okay, so to get started. Okay, so your first square is going to be this box down here in the corner. So what we do is when I do mine, I work from the bottom right corner to the top left. Okay, now on my website, on my blog, when I post the free patterns, this is not on there yet, but when I do post this pattern, I also have written instructions that you can follow along to that start from the bottom right to top left, and then I also have instructions for starting from the bottom left. Now I've never done that, but I do provide instructions for those of you that would like that as an option. Okay, so you're going to take your ruler and you're going to draw a line headed down. So you're going to, this is going to be our first square here, and for me, I'm going to be working in this direction for my first square. When I am drawing my lines, the direction that I'm working in, I always extend that line. So for the first square, since I'm working this way, I'll extend the line out this way. And then for my next line, for my next row of pixel squares, I'll extend the line out that way. And it just helps me to remember which direction I'm working in. Okay, so you can set your ruler and your pen aside. All right, and as you can see, we're going to be starting with our blue yarn. And you can certainly sub whatever color you want for the background. Okay. All right, now to begin. Okay, you're going to take your yarn and move our graph out of the way for just a moment. So again, we're just making that first square right there. Okay, so you're going to take your yarn and make a slip knot. Then you're going to chain 6. Okay, so now you have 6 chains, okay? You're going to double crochet in the first 3. So you're going to skip over those 3 there, and then 1, 2, 3, and these 3 chains here, you're going to double crochet. Okay? Now we have created the first square of our graph, okay? Sorry about that, dropped my yarn. Okay, so now to begin the next row, you are always going to chain 6 unless you're decreasing, and I'll get to that later. So again, you're going to go ahead and chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and once again, skip over the first 3 chains and then double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now you're going to take your work and you're going to find that chain from the first square. So here are the 1, 2, 3 double crochet that you had made, and here is the chain of 3 that you had skipped over. So you're going to flip this over and you're going to attach, slip stitch your yarn into that chain 3 space. Okay, so remember, this is your first square, this is the second row. Okay, so after you slip stitch into that chain 3 space, now you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then in that same chain 3 space, you're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now you have your first 2 rows. Okay, so I'm going to grab my chart here. Okay, move this over. So as you can see, we made our first square there, and now I'm going to draw the line for the second row that we just made. So this time we're working in that direction. So really this is actually, flip that over like this, okay, because we just worked our second row that way. So go ahead and draw your line, and then since you made those 2, you go ahead and use a marker and just go like that so that you know those are done. So now we're going to draw the line for our next row, for row 3. Okay, and we're going to be working this way, okay, and you're going to be making 1, 2, 3 double crochet, or three squares. Okay, so you can take your work. Okay, and now again we are starting a new row, so you need to make 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and now skip those first 3 chains and then double crochet in the next 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and once again, I'm going to flip this over, find that chain 3. So remember, these are the 1, 2, 3 double crochet that you made. You can see that. 1, 2, 3. Those are the double crochet you made. This is the chain 3 that you skipped over. You're going to slip stitch. So pull your yarn through to attach your yarn to that space, and now you're going to chain 3, and you're going to make 3 double crochet in that same space. So 1, 2, 3, and then 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now you can do the same thing again. For your next square, to attach it to the next one, find that chain 3. So again, these are the double crochet you made. 1, 2, 3. This is the chain 3 space that you skipped over. You're going to slip stitch your yarn, so attach your yarn to that space, and then you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, and then make 3 double crochet in that same space. 1. Oops, that happens to me a lot. And 3. Okay, so now we have completed 1, 2, 3 rows. Okay, and if you're on row number 3, here's a tip. If you're on row 3, you should have 1, 2, 3 squares going diagonally and across, okay, and up and down. while it's still a square. All right, so now I'm going to take my chart and 1, 2, 3. Those 3 are done. Now we're working back in the other direction. I'm going to draw my line. This is row 4, and we are going to end up with 4 squares in this row. Okay, so you're going to take your work and chain 6 to begin the next row. Okay, and then again, skip over the first 3 chains and then double crochet in the next 3. Okay. You can turn your work. Okay. Since you're working this way, the corner should always be on the side where your crochet hook is. So if you're working this way, the corner is going to be on the same side as my hook. I am right-handed. I'm assuming left-handed. That would be the opposite for you. Okay, so now again, find that chain 3 space. So you can see your 1, 2, 3 double crochet. That's the chain 3. That's the space you're working into right there. Okay. Attach your yarn and chain 3. And then you're going to make 3 double crochet into that same space. Sorry, my yarn got a little tight there. Okay, all right, I made my 3 double crochet. Now I'm going to work into the next square. That's my chain 3 space, slip knot or slip stitch into that space to attach your yarn, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to work 3 double crochet into that space. Okay, and then in the last square, find that chain 3 space, attach your yarn, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to make 3 double crochet. Okay, so you just completed row 4. Okay, and we were working in that direction, just so you can see here. Okay, row 4, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. One, 2, 3, 4. For row 5, draw your line. We're working this way. Okay. I'm going to show you row 5 and 6, and then I will draw the rest of the lines just to use for the blue. You can do the rest of the rows on your own, and then I will meet up with you to show you how to do the colors when you have more than one color. So for row 5, once again, you're going to chain 6 to begin the new row. You're going to skip over the first 3 chains and make 3 double crochet. Okay, turn your work, find that chain 3 space, attach your yarn and chain 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to make 3 double crochet. Okay, find that chain 3 space for the next square, join your yarn with a slip stitch, chain 3, and then you're going to make 3 double crochet into that same space. One, three. Okay. Find the next chain 3 space in the next square. Join with a slip stitch and chain 3. And then you're going to make 3 double crochet in the same space. 1, And then in the last square, find that chain 3 space, slip stitch, chain 3, and then make 3 double crochet. Okay, so we just completed row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, draw your line for row 6. We're working that way. Okay, so this is the last row I'm going to show you, just the blue, so you'll be able to do just the blue rows, the rest of them yourself. Okay, so for row 6, go ahead and chain 6. 1, 2. And then you're going to skip over those first 3 chains and double crochet into the next 3. Okay, turn your work, find the chain 3 space, so this is the chain, the space is right there next to it, just like we've been doing. Going to go ahead and join your yarn with a slip stitch, chain 3, 2, 3, and make 3 double crochet. Okay, find the chain 3 space of the next square, join your yarn with the slip stitch, chain 3. Okay, go ahead and make 3 double crochet. Okay, join to the next chain 3 space. 1, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Make 3 double crochet. Oops, lost the yarn there. 3. Join to the next chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3 chains and 3 double crochet. Okay, join to the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and make 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Just completed row 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, all right. So the next few rows you can do on your own. So let's see here. So row 6 is done. Let's mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so row 7 is also only blue. So you can do that row on your own. Row 8 is only blue yarn. So you can also do that row. Row 9 is only blue. Row 10 is only blue. And then beginning in row 11 is when we'll start using the white yarn. So you go ahead and do row 7, 8, 9, and 10 on your own. Do exactly the same thing we've been doing. At the beginning of each row, you chain 6, make 3 double crochet, and then you attach your yarn to the next square, work your way up. You chain 3 each time and make 3 double crochet to make each square. When you get to the end of row 10, count your squares. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, go ahead and do that and we'll meet back up after. Okay, so now I have completed row 10. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 squares. Okay, and I apologize that you can't see the whole thing. Here we go. Okay, so now for row 11. So remember, row 10, you were working in the upward direction. Now we're going to be working in the downward direction. So go ahead and draw your line for row 10, excuse me, for row 11. Okay. All right, now as you can see, we are going to start row 11 with 1, 2, 3 blue squares, and then we are going to switch to white for 3, and then the rest of the row will be blue again. So what I'm going to do is I will end up cutting my yarn, because if you look at any of my past videos where I show you how to make Afghans, I carry the yarn with me. I no longer do that when I'm making my Afghans, simply because it looks so much cleaner when you don't. You do end up with more ends to weave in, but they're actually really easy to weave in, so it's not such a big deal, especially if you're not using a lot of different colors. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how I do this. So we have 3 blue squares. So let's start row 11 by making our chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then skip those first 3 chains. Make your 3 double crochet. 1, okay, I'm going to attach to the next square and then make your next square. Okay, and you can just, I will try to work a little quicker now. You can pause the video if you need to catch up. Okay, so I've made 2 squares. Make 1 more blue square. Okay, so I have my 1, 2, 3, first 3 squares for row 11, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to pull some yarn out of my skein, some blue yarn that I will need, because for the rest of my pattern, the blue is essentially split by the dog's face. So I need the blue on this side and on this side. So rather than carrying it back and forth for the entire picture, I'm just going to cut off a long section to use on this end, and then this end I will continue pulling from the skein of yarn. If you had 2 skeins of yarn, that would be even better, but you don't have to have that. You can just pull some out and cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I don't know exactly how much I'll need, but I can always get more later. I really don't have any method to this. I have done before where I'll make a sample of like so many squares. So like for example, I have 6 black pixels here that I will need for the pupil. I've done it before where I'll use the black yarn, crochet 6 squares, weigh it, and then take that many grams out, and it works pretty well, but this is just quicker. Just don't feel like making a sample. Pull a bunch of yarn out. Okay, so don't get intimidated by this. This is pretty easy, so you just cut it. Okay, so now this bundle of yarn is going to be used for this section, okay? I don't know, again, if I have enough, but if not, no problem. Okay, now I am going to switch to the white for this row because I have to make my 3 white squares. Since I was just using the blue, I'm going to leave the blue in front. So I'm leaving it on the side towards me, okay? If you have followed along to my older Afghan videos, this is different. There are many different ways of doing this. This is just the method that I have learned recently, and I prefer this method, okay? So just gonna leave it, it's on the front here, just pull it over just like that to the side, out of the way, okay? Now you're going to need to grab your white yarn. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to insert your hook into that chain 3 space just like you normally would, but there's no blue yarn to grab. You're going to grab the white yarn instead and pull it through. And now you are working with your white yarn. Things will be pretty loose at first. No big deal. Don't stress about it. Go ahead and make your chain 3 and everything can be tightened up afterwards, okay? I try to hold this piece of yarn down with this finger, and then I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then go ahead and make your 3 double crochet. 2, 3. Okay, you can see how it looks pretty loose. Don't stress about that. Okay, you can see that looks loose there. You just tighten it from the other side. Everything will start to look neater. Just like that, okay? So go ahead and just make 2 more using the same method you've been using. You're working with the white yarn now. Make 2 more white squares. Oops. Okay, so we have our 1, 2, 3 blue. Now we have our 3 white. If it's easier for you to mark those off as you go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The rest of the row will be blue again. So now I had cut this yarn from the ball, from the skein of yarn. So now I can go back to the skein of yarn and use that. So now the rest, this portion of the blue on the other side of the dog will come from my ball of yarn. Okay. So again, the white. You are done with this. So pull it towards the front this way. Insert your hook into that next chain 3 space and then pull that blue yarn through, just like you just did with the white. Okay, you can loosen or tighten everything up after. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and make your 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, go ahead and tighten everything, and then continue the rest of this row. Okay. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and mark off those last 5 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we are done with row 11. Now row 12, we are going to start using our brown. Go ahead and draw your line for row 12. You're working upwards now. Okay, we're going to start this row with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue squares. Now, as you start turning, when you have more sections of yarn or skeins of yarn attached, things will start to get tangly. So do whatever you need to do to keep yourself organized as you are working. I will sometimes, you know, move the balls of yarn around because they get tangled. So I'll move them out from underneath each other so that all the yarn stays a little bit straight and less tangled. But you do whatever works for you. Okay, so we are now beginning row 12. You're going to begin again, of course, with a chain 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you're making 5 blue squares. So go ahead and skip those first 3 chains and make your 3 double crochet in the next chains. Okay, 1 square. Two. 3. 4. 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we mark those off. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we are going to use the white yarn and we are going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white squares, okay? So again, I just used the blue, so I'm going to pull it. It's in front of me, okay? Move it to the side. And now you're going to insert your hook into that next chain 3 space right there. And then on the other side, there's your white yarn. Go ahead and grab it and pull it through, okay? Now you don't want to pull too tightly. Everything should be nice and loose, okay? And then go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and make your first white square. Oh my gosh, that keeps happening. Okay. Okay, you're going to make 5 white squares. So there's 1. 2. 'Kay, need one more double crochet in this one. Now, I still have to make 2 more white squares, right? And here's my blue yarn. Just leave it there. Don't carry it with you. I'm actually going to cut it because in the last row we had moved the blue yarn down to here. Well, by the time we need it for this row, we'll be up here. So I'm just going to cut it down here and reattach it up here, okay? Just because I think the amount of time it takes to weave it in, it's really worth it to do that, take that time because it looks so much neater. So just leave your yarn where it is, the blue one, and finish your 5 white squares. Okay, 4. 5. Okay. So I'm done with the white. And try to keep your yarn again organized as you're going. So I'm going to pull the white to the front of me this way. This is just that yarn tail I'll have to weave in later. Okay, you don't need your blue yet because look, we still have to make a brown square. Go ahead and mark off your 5 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to grab your brown yarn. Okay. And then once again insert your hook into the next chain 3 space. Pull that brown yarn through. Oops, okay. You're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then make 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now that brown yarn, take it in front and move it off to the side. Okay. And now I'm going to, now we need our blue yarn, which is left down here. I'm going to go ahead and just leave a fairly decent size yarn tail and cut it. And then I will reattach it up here. So my brown yarn's in front towards me, off to the side. Insert your hook into that chain 3 space. Pull your blue yarn through, chain 3, and make your 3 double crochet. Okay, and you just need to tighten that up. There you go. Okay, if you flip that around, so these are the yarn tails you'll have to weave in later, but it's not such a big deal. And it just looks so much nicer to not have other colors running through your squares. Okay, so we had our 5 blue, 5 white, 1 brown, 1 blue. So 5 blue, 5 white, 1 brown, and 1 blue. So 5 and 5 is 10, 11, 12. We are on row 12, and we have our 12 squares. Go ahead and draw the line for row 13. You're now working back down. Okay, we're going to start with 1 blue square and then we'll switch to brown. Take the time at the end of each row just to get your yarn organized however you need to. Okay, so here, this is the yarn that I had trimmed off for this end up here. Okay, trying to keep it all nice and neat. All right, go ahead and chain 6. Make your 3 double crochet. Okay, now turn your work, because remember we're working down, so just look at your graph. You're working this way, so you want your work to look the same way, okay? So you have this right here. We're going to attach that square to the top there, but we don't need the blue anymore. We are ready to use brown again. So even though it looks a little weird to do this, just like before, you're going to take that yarn, keep it in front of you, move it off to the side, and when you attach it, when you make your slip stitch, you're going to grab the brown yarn, and then you make your 2 brown squares. Okay, just like that. Okay, attach it. Okay, so you have your blue square and your 2 brown squares. Go ahead and mark those off. Okay, and now we are going to switch to white, and we are going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white squares. Okay, so again, take that brown yarn, keep it in front on the side that you, like on your side, slip stitch and pull that white yarn up. Okay, since we had made the square white, rather than being down here, it's up here, but it's fine. Just make sure that when you're doing this, you're not pulling the yarn too tight. Okay, so you've attached your white yarn. Go ahead and make your square. One, two, three, four, five. I think we need one more. Forget. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so make one more. Okay, and again, I'm going to leave the blue yarn there, and I can cut it and bring it up. No big deal. It takes a second just to weave that end in. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mark off your 6 white squares. Okay, and now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. You can see here our white square that we just made is next to a blue square, which means that blue yarn was left up here. So here's my working yarn. I'm not going to pull it up because then it would be going past and that would look weird. It would just be a straight line up. So just cut it. Just cut it and reattach it. It's really not such a big deal. It might feel like a lot of yarn tails, but it's really not going to be so bad. It'll be worth it. All the work that you put into making the square, I think it's worth the time to make it look nice and neat. Take the yarn you were just using, that white yarn, keep it in front, move it to the side, and then slip stitch, attach your blue yarn, and then you're going to make your 4 blue squares. Sorry, my yarn got stuck. Okay, 2. 3. 4. All right, so you have your 4 blue squares. Tighten your yarn up. Okay. And I suggest that you, at the end of each row, always double check your work. Because if you made a mistake, like I have been crocheting before and I'll slip stitch to the next square, for example. And then one of my kids needs me and I get distracted and I forget that I haven't made my 3 double crochet yet. So I haven't actually made the square, but I'll slip stitch to the next square and get started. So I essentially skip over square, so I'm a square short. And if you do that, sometimes it's not so noticeable as you're working, and you'll realize 2-3 rows later, and then you have to undo all of that work. So it really, take the time up front, just count them real quick, and you'll save yourself so much grief in the long run. So I had one blue, 2 brown. So 1 blue, 2 brown, and then I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white, 2, 4, 6 white, and 4 blue at the end. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and draw your line for row 14. Okay, and here in row 14, we are going to start the pink tongue. Okay, don't get intimidated by the colors. It's not such a big deal. I designed this so that you are doing some color switches, but that it's little sections at a time, so it's not such a big deal. Okay, all right, so you're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with 2 blue squares, okay? Okay. Now we're working up. Okay. Because I crochet right-handed, when I crochet up, I'm working on the wrong side. So this would be the right side, but because I'm crocheting from right to left, you can see the wrong side of the work. Okay, so I have my 1, 2. Okay, so go ahead and mark those off. And now, after I make the pink, there's going to be a little bit of blue. I am debating if I should carry. No, you know what? I'm going to continue doing what I've been showing you guys, and I am going to attach my pink yarn, and then I will cut enough for that blue square, because we are going to make this entire chart without carrying any of the yarn colors. Sorry for shaking that. Okay, so now you need your pink. Okay, so move your blue yarn out of the way. Insert your hook into that chain space. Attach your pink yarn. And then go ahead and make 1 square. Okay. And go ahead and tighten everything up. Okay, move that pink yarn out of the way, off to the side. Okay, and now I'm going to just cut this. I'll weave it in later. And then I'm going to reattach it to make that 1 square. Okay, so I did my pink square. Now I'm doing my 1 blue square. Okay. Don't worry about it too much if everything's a little loose. That where you have those yarn tails, that will just get tightened later. Okay, so let's mark those off. We did our 2 blue, then we did our pink, and then the blue. So pink and then the blue. So now we need to do white. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white squares. Okay, so you take your blue, move it out of your way. Okay. Insert your hook to that chain 3 space and grab the white yarn. And then you're making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those 7 white squares. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I hope that was in focus. Okay, so move your white yarn out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead and mark off those 7 squares on your chart. Okay, now we need to make 2 brown squares and then 1 blue. Okay, so go ahead and insert your hook. Pull that brown yarn through and make your 2 squares. We have our 2 brown squares. You can mark those off. And now we need to make our blue square. Move your brown yarn, keep it in front, move it off to the side. Insert your hook, pull your blue yarn all the way through and make your blue square. Okay, row 14 is complete. Okay, and here's what it looks like. I think it's really cool how these different colored squares end up looking more and more like a certain picture as you go. Go ahead and mark off that last blue square and let's draw the line for row 15. Okay, all right, we're going to start with 1 blue square. And again, go ahead and do what you need to do. There's a lot of yarn that you're working with, so do what you need to do to keep it organized for yourself. Otherwise, it just ends up being a frustrating situation when everything gets tangled. Okay, there's our one blue square. Turn your work. We're working down now, and we work from right to left if you're right-handed. Okay, so now we're going to attach our yarn and pull the brown through. Okay, I'm just untangling my brown yarn here. And then we're making 1, 2, 3 brown squares. Oops, I did something wrong there. Let me tighten this up. One, two, three. Okay. Okay, go ahead and mark off your blue square and your 3 brown squares. Blue, 1, 2, 3 brown. Okay, now we're making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white squares. Okay, again, keep the brown in front. Insert your hook to join, and you're going to pull that white yarn through. Make your squares. I have 3. Okay, 2, 4, 5. 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead and mark those off. Okay, and now we are not making any more blue until after the tongue. Okay, you see that? So just making 2 pink squares now. So leave the white in front like you normally do. Insert your hook. And then you're going to, ooh, my pink yarn just fell. You're going to pull that pink yarn through, attach it with a slip stitch, and you're going to make your 2 squares. Oh my god. Here we go. All right, 2 pink squares. Okay. Again, keep that yarn in front. Insert your hook. And then, oh, you know what, before you do that, we left our working yarn here. We're gonna have to cut that and reattach it because we had used it, cut it off to use it for that last square there, okay? So, cut it. All right, and now I'm gonna reattach it at the bottom. If the yarn tails are driving you crazy, just take a break and weave them all in. You can weave in the ones that you have so far, that way you have less to do at the end. Okay, and you're making 2 blue squares. If you're not sure how to weave them in, just wait. I'll be showing you how to do that. Okay, here we go. All right, we have our 2 pink and then our 2 blue. Go ahead and mark those off. Okay. You can go ahead and draw the line for row 16. We are moving right along. Okay. All right, so we're starting here. 2 blue squares and then 2 pink squares. Okay, we have our 2 blue squares. Let's take that yarn, move it. Oh, this is the yarn for the other end. Okay. Don't get frustrated with it. I know the yarn can get tangly. Rather than getting frustrated, just take a minute, get yourself reorganized, regroup, and then keep on, okay? No reason to get too frustrated with it. So here we have our 2 blue, 1, 2, and now we're going to make our 2 pink. Okay, so you're going to, look, I have my yarn in front, as always. Insert your hook and pull that pink yarn through. And make your 2 pink squares. I think I put that in the wrong spot. There we go. Okay, 1, 2. And mark off those squares. Okay, now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 white squares. You're leaving the pink yarn in front. And then pulling the white yarn through. And you're going to make your 8 squares. go. Three. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. Okay. There you go. 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, go ahead and mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we have 3 brown to make. So leave your white yarn in front. You have to pull it to the front if it was behind, because that's where it was when you were working with it. Pull it in front, that way when you're going in the other direction, it's where you need it to be to do the next row. Okay, and now you're going to make 3 brown squares. One, 2. 3. Mark those off. 1, 2, 3. And now you have 1 blue left for this row. Okay. Make that blue square. There you go. Okay, and you are done with row 16. I think this is going to be super cute. If you're curious, here are just a sneak peek of some other ones that I've designed. The panda, I've already started working on him. I was doing that last night. Bear. Pig. And some of them I've given a color background to. I might change that. And the mouse. It's hard to see, but the inside of his ears is a different color. So I don't know if I will. Obviously the panda I've already started, so that won't be a YouTube tutorial, but I might do tutorials of some of the others. Go ahead and comment below if there's any of the like face emojis that you want. They fit so nicely in a little square. I think they're super cute, and they're fun to make. So if there's any that you want to request, just put it in the comments below. All right, for row 17, go ahead and draw your line. Okay, now you can see here in this row, we will be starting the eye patch. So we are going to be cutting our yarn, and we'll pull off a whole bunch to hopefully have enough for this section, and then we'll reattach here to use for the eye. and then we are going to be starting the nose, and we will be making the last square of the pink. So after this row, you'll be done with pink for the whole graph because it's just the 6 squares for the tone. Okay, so again, you're starting with 1 blue square. Okay. Just take a minute here to move my yarn over so I don't get myself too tangled up. Grabbing my brown. Okay, and now you're making 1, 2, 3 brown squares. Okay. One, two, okay. And I'm actually going to do this a little differently. Since I know I'm going to be needing the brown, I'm going to go ahead and do it now, get it ready, so that I'm not fussing with that further down in a few blocks. So you want to go ahead and pull enough yarn out of the skein that you think you will need to complete this ear. Okay, and again, just like I did with the blue, it's not going to be perfect, but just eyeball it, and you can always attach more later if you need to. Okay, I think that's good for now. Cut it. Okay, keep this in front, okay? And now you're going to, let's mark off those squares. So I did my blue, first blue, and then 1, 2, 3 brown, and now you're going to make 2 white. Okay, so insert your hook. Pull the white through. And make your 2 white squares. Okay, there we go. Keep your white in front. Okay, and now you're going to take that brown yarn, insert your hook into that chain 3 space, and attach the brown yarn. Okay, and we're going to need 1, 2, 3 brown squares. One, two, three. Okay, so we have just begun the eye patch. Okay, let's mark those off. So here's my 2 white, 1, 2, and then my 3 brown. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to, so what we're going to do now, we're going to do the same thing with our white. I forgot about this. Since this piece here, it's going to be split by the eye patch, we're going to pull out a whole bunch of white. And you know what? It's very likely we're going to have to reattach some more later. So just pull a bunch out, cut it, and we'll reattach down here. And then you'll have some to continue working up this way with. So let me see here. Okay. Again, does it need to be perfect? If you guys have any tips on how you keep your yarn organized when you're working on graph cans like this, I would love to hear. I know that I've seen some video tutorials where people will use like clips to clip them together, or use those the wooden skeins and switch them around as they're moving along. I sort of always have a big mess, but it works. Okay, so now we need 2 white. So go ahead and keep your brown in front, insert your hook, and then find that white again. Okay, reattach it. And now your yarn attached to the skein will be down here. Okay, and you're going to make your 2 white squares. Sorry if I went off camera. It's 1, 2. Okay, and now we are going to need to attach our black yarn, which I need to grab. Oh, sorry. I have been using my black yarn for my koala that I started on last night. Okay. So go ahead and you marked off your 2 white squares. So now we're going to make our 2 black squares. So you're going to attach your black yarn. And make your 2 squares. To unravel my black yarn a little bit here. Okay. The joys of working with yarn. All right, it's 1. Go ahead and mark those 2 off. It's hard to see on the black, but I still like to mark them off. And then now you're going to do your last pink square. Keep the black in front. Insert your hook and pull that pink yarn through. pull the pink yarn to the front, leave the yarn tail and snip it off. You are done with the pink. And then you're going to continue on, finish making those three, finish the row by making 3 blue squares. One, two. Three. Okay. I haven't been counting at the end of each row just because we're paying such close attention as we're moving along. But when I'm crocheting by myself, I definitely am moving a little quicker and not, you know, paying maybe as much attention as I am right now while I'm explaining it to you. So I haven't been doing that, but I would highly recommend it. So you can see here, this is row 17. So you don't want to look at the number that comes after your line. You want to look at the square and the number right below, 17 here, okay? So here's our pink square and then our 3 blue. So all you really need to do is just count down the middle here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You're on row 17 and you should have 17 squares going this way, going this way, and going up and down, okay? All right. Okay, now for row 18, go ahead and draw your line. We are working in the upward direction. Okay. All right, so we are going to start out now with 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. Okay. So go ahead and take your work and you're going to chain 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip over 3 chains and make your 3 double crochet. Slip stitch into that chain 3 space, chain 3, make your next square. We have made 2 squares. Repeat that 2 more times. Okay, here we go. We have our 4 squares. Let's mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need to use our white. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and pull some white off my skein of yarn here. So I have my white that I'm working with up here. And then I have the white that is attached here. So now I'm going to pull some white yarn off my skein for this area, because I don't want to carry any of the yarn with me. I used to do that, like I said, in my graphs, but now I feel like even though you can hide a lot of the yarn, it still looks so much better, so much cleaner, and it's reversible when you actually just take the time to weave in the ends and not carry the yarn. Okay, so I've cut off a section of yarn for myself. Now remember, I just finished with the blue, so I'm going to leave the blue on my side. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that next chain 3 space. I'm going to make my one white square. So attach your white yarn. 2, 3, and then make your 3 double crochet. Okay, and you can tighten everything up. And you just finished with the white, so leave the white on your side. And now we're going to make 2 black squares. So insert your hook into that next chain 3 space. Two, 3 chains and 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. 1 square made. 2, 3. 1, 2. Second square made. Okay, so we can mark off that white square and those 2 black squares. Now we have to make 1 more white square, and then we're going to switch to the brown. Okay, so you're going to leave your black yarn on the side you're working on here, on your side. And you're going to insert your hook into that next chain 3 space and make 1 white square. Chain 3 and 3 double crochet. Okay. Now we're going to switch to brown and make 1, 2, 3, 4 brown squares. Oops. 1 square. 2, 3, 4. And there you have your 4 brown squares. Mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to make 2 white squares. One, 2. Okay. Mark those 2 white squares off. Now you're going to make 3 brown squares. Two, 3. Okay, mark those 3 squares off. 1, 2, 3, and then our last square is blue. There we go. All right, so we just completed row 18. Count all the tiles you just made. You should have 18 tiles or 18 squares. I'm gonna mark off that last one there. Okay, now for row 19, we're working down. Draw your line. Okay, and we can see here we're starting with 1 blue tile, 1 blue square. So go ahead and chain 6 to begin. Skip the first 3 chains and make your 3 double crochet. Okay, now you need to turn your work. You're going to be attaching it there in that chain 3 space. Leave your blue yarn in front. Now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 brown squares. There's 1. 2. 3. 4. Okay. Go ahead and mark those squares off on your chart. So we have the 1 blue square and then we have 4 brown squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we are making 1 white square. Let's mark that off. And now 2 brown squares. One, 2. Okay, mark off those 2 brown squares. Now we need some black yarn. We're going to start this black pupil here. So I am going to, I only need 3 more squares worth of black yarn for the nose down here, so I'm going to pull enough yarn out to hopefully have enough to finish the nose. This yarn is a bit of a mess here that I have, so just bear with me. Okay, I'm hoping to get enough here to finish the nose, and I'll attach the rest up top for the pupil. It's hard when the yarn tail, like the other end of the yarn, starts coming out the same spot where your working yarn does. It gets tangled up real easily. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much time doing this. I'll just cut this for now. And then hopefully this won't give me too much trouble. Okay, so brown yarn is on the same side as you. And then you're going to attach your black yarn and one black square. And then I'm going to leave this brown here for this part, and then I'm going to just cut off some brown yarn to do that part of the eyeball. And again, you could carry your brown yarn through the black, and there's a good chance you wouldn't see it, but you know, for the amount of time it takes to just weave the ends in, I'd rather not take that chance because it just looks so much cleaner. So now you're going to leave the black yarn on your side and attach your brown yarn. And then, okay, once you get all those yarn tails later, when you weave them in, tighten them, everything will look a lot neater. Okay, so we just made our black tile, or black square, so now we have one more brown square to make. Oops, did you see what I did there? I started chaining with the yarn tail, not the working yarn. So I'm going to hold that yarn tail down. One, two, three, double crochet. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to tighten everything up real quick. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we just did the black square and the brown square. So let's mark those off. Now we have to make 2 white squares. One, two. Okay. Mark those 2 white squares off. And then make 2 black squares. One, two. Okay, our 2 black squares are made. We're going to mark those off. And then we have to make 1 white square. Okay. Mark off that 1 white square, and now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. That'll finish off our row. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so go ahead and mark off those 4 blue squares. Count your squares for row 19. You should have 19 squares. Okay, all right, now we're going to draw our line for row 20. We are working up. Okay, all right, we're going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. Chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip over the first 3 chains and make your 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, couldn't see where I made that first chain. 1. Okay, my first square is done. Turn your work. You're going to attach it here and begin your second blue square. Two. Pull some more blue yarn out. 3. 4. Okay, mark off those 4 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to make 2 white squares. One, 2. Okay, mark off those 2 white squares. And now we're going to make 1 black square, which is going to be the last square for the nose. And look at this. I cut off just enough to finish off the nose. Okay. Mark off that 1 black square. Now we have 2 white squares to make. One. 2. After this, for the next rows, we'll be able to combine these 2 whites. So I'll just pick whichever one has more yarn on the skein, and I'll continue on with that white until I get to here when it's split up again. Okay, mark off those 2 white squares. You are now going to be making 1 brown square. Mark off that 1 brown square, and then we have 2 black squares to make. One, two. Okay, mark off those 2 black squares. 1, 2, and now we have 2 brown squares to make. Mark off your 2 brown squares. Now we have 1 white square to make. Mark off that white square, and then 1, 2, 3 brown squares. One, 2, 3. Here we have our 3 brown squares. Mark them off. 1, 2, 3, and now we have 2 blue to finish off row 20. All right, now you have finished row 20. Please count those squares and make sure that you have 20 of them. Go ahead and draw your line for row 21. We are working downwards. Okay, you're going to start row 21 with 2 blue squares. Go ahead and chain 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip the first 3 chains and make your 3 double crochet. to turn your work so that you can attach it. And now you're going to make one more blue square. Okay, so you've made your 2 blue squares, mark those off, and we're going to make 3 brown squares. Sorry, my blue yarn was getting a little tangly. Okay. One, two, three. Okay, mark those 3 squares off. Now you have 2 white squares to make. One, two, okay, mark off those 2 white squares. 1, 2. Now you have 1 brown square to make. Okay, mark off that brown square. Now you have 2 black squares to make. One, two. Okay, mark off those 2 black squares, and then we have 1 brown square to make. Okay, mark off that 1 brown square. And now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white squares. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, go ahead and mark off those 6 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares to make. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so drop my hook. You are now done with row 21. Go ahead and make sure that you have 21 tiles going diagonally. Remember, if you make a mistake, it's so much easier to fix it now than to undo a few rows worth of work. Okay, row 21 is done. Go ahead and draw your line for row 22. We are working back up. All right. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're going to begin our row with 5 blue squares. Okay. Go ahead and chain 6 to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and make your 3 double crochet. Okay, your first square is made. Go ahead and turn your work, attach your square, and make the next one. Two, 3, 4, 5. Okay, mark off those 5 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and mark off those 5 squares. Hey bud, I can hear you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're going to make 2 brown squares. Hey Mark, yeah, there you go. Lift the handle up, buddy. Now push the door. Sorry, my youngest is homesick with a stomach ache. Okay, come on in, Mark. One, 2. Mark off your 2 brown squares. Hey Marky, just push the door open. Lift the handle up, and push it. There you go. Okay, now you're going to make 1 black square. How are you doing?
Good.
What do you think?
It's good.
Thank you. How are you feeling?
Good.
Can I get you anything? Okay. Go ahead and mark off that 1 black square. What do you think? Thank you. To eat? Yeah, go ahead. Okay, now you're going to make your 2 brown squares. So we just marked off our black square. We have 2 brown squares. Go ahead, bud. No candy. You have a stomach ache. Something healthy. Okay, 1. 2. Okay, mark off those 2 brown squares. And now you have 2 white squares to make. One, 2. Okay, now you have 2 brown squares to make. One, 2. Mark off those 2 brown squares. And we are going to finish our row with 3 blue squares. One, 2, 3. Okay, you are now done with row 22. Go ahead and count your squares and make sure that you have 22 squares. And we're going to draw the line for row 23. And you are working down. All right, so row 23 is going to start with 1, 2, 3 blue squares. Go ahead and chain 6. Make your 3 double crochet. Okay, turn your work, slip stitch, and make your second square. Two. Three. Okay, mark off your 3 blue squares. Now you're going to make 2 brown squares. One, and 2. Okay, mark off those 2 brown squares. And now we're going to make 3 white squares. One, two, three. Okay, mark off those 3 white squares. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 brown. Okay, 1, 2, 3, here we have this yarn that was attached from before. Trying to figure out which one is actually attached to the yarn skein here. I have a big tangly mess, you can see. Hang on. Pulling on the yarn that came out of the actual yarn skein, and that would be the yarn I'm currently working with. Okay, so I'm going to just trim this yarn, and I'm going to continue with this piece here. So this other yarn, I'm pulling it out of my tangly mess real quick and getting that out of the way. Okay. All right, so I've already made 3, so I have to make 1 more blue square. Okay, there you go. Your 4 blue squares, mark those off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Mark off those 6. So cute. Those 6 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now you're going to finish your row by making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. mark off those 5 blue squares. You are done with row 23. You should have 23 squares going diagonally, and you'll also have 23 going up and down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and draw the line for row 24. You're moving up, working up. Okay, we are going to start row 24 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue squares. Okay, chain 6 to start and make your 3 double crochet. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, mark off those first 5 blue squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mark off those 7 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 brown squares. One, 2, 3, you're making 4, one more, 'kay, go ahead and mark off those 4 brown squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to make 2 white squares. One, two. Okay, mark off those 2 white squares. 1, 2. Now you have 2 brown squares. One, two. Okay, mark off your 2 brown squares. 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. Sorry, I have a tangle here. Gotta undo this a bit. This is gonna happen a lot. It gets frustrating, but it's just part of crocheting. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you have completed row 24. Mark off those last 4 blue tiles, blue squares, and count to make sure that you have 24 squares in your row. Just trying to loosen up some of this yarn still here. All right, go ahead and draw the line for your next row for row 25. Okay, it's probably the best. I'm gonna get it right now. Sorry about that. All right, 25. Now you can see here, this is our corner, so our piece will not be any higher than this. So after this row, I'll show you how to do what we call decreases, okay? And really, you're not decreasing anything, you're just not continuing to increase, and it's so easy to do. I'll show you how to do that after this row. So draw your line for row 25, and we are going to begin with 1, 2, 3, 4 blue squares. Go ahead and make your 6 chains. And your 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, I'm sorry about this. This is really tangled up. So that's 2. Three. For my next row, I will be cutting this and reattaching it because this is just going to make me crazy. I just want to finish these 4 tiles, 4 squares before I do that. All right, I need 2 more double crochet. 1. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is cringeworthy. I'm sorry. All right, I got it. I got my 4 double crochet, and I'm going to cut this yarn, and I'll be weaving that in. Okay, I'll just reattach it for the next row. Okay, so keep your yarn in front. Sorry about that. Mark off those 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to make 2 brown squares. One, 2, okay, and then you're going to make 3 white squares. One, 2, 3, mark off those 3 white squares. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 brown squares. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, mark off those 3 brown squares. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white squares. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to mark off those 8 white squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we have 5 blue squares left for row 25. One, 2, 3, 4, go ahead and mark off those last 5 tiles, blue squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and double check, count your your squares, and make sure that you have 25.